Good morning. Welcome back to the program. Our stock market is set for a pretty wild ride today when it opens in about an hour from now after the US computer chip company Nvidia, recently the most valuable company in the world, collapsed by almost 17% overnight. The cause is that Chinese artificial intelligence, an application called DeepSeek, which has apparently been created at a fraction of the cost that the American AI applications like ChatGPT operate at. Joining me now is our business editor Ross Greenwood. Ross, this is a fascinating story, and this is really the next frontier, isn't it? I mean, the market shouldn't have been totally surprised by DeepSeek, but explain what it all means.
Okay, so first off, let's go to DeepSeek. DeepSeek basically is a bit like OpenAI. It creates artificial intelligence. And so around a week ago, it launched a new application, which is a bit like ChatGPT, called R1. And what happened was that not only was created at a fraction of the price of, say, ChatGPT and OpenAI, but also performed just as well. And that's the thing that has now spooked the markets. Now, do remember that the whole basis of ChatGPT, OpenAI, and artificial intelligence that's coming, and there is a boom expected around the world in artificial intelligence. The key is the computer chips. The computer chips are known as GRU chips. And really, in many ways, Nvidia had a key hold on this type of technology. That's the reason why it was catapulted. Now, bit of background, Nvidia was created many, many years ago, and it basically made the best computer chips for computer gaming. But basically it then evolved into the computer chips market for artificial intelligence. And now these giant databases, these sort of data centres that are being created around the world, they're building them at record paces, even here in Australia, are basically to hook up these GRU chips so that the artificial intelligence can start to generate knowledge and generate things much faster than what human beings can do. But when all of a sudden it was thought that the Chinese can create this much, much more cheaply, then you can see what the impact on the markets were. And that's why the Nvidia share price, as you say, a record one-day fall. This is what it did, down by almost 17%. And that's about $1 trillion that was wiped from its value. What we can see, though, is maybe the markets did overreact, as you say. So in after-hours trading, the US markets continues to trade after hours. And basically what happened was it started to rise in after-hours trading. You can see here that other companies like Oracle, which of course was a part of that deal with Donald Trump in this past week for $500 billion worth of data centres in America to drive artificial intelligence, down by almost 14%. Alphabet, which is Google, down by 4%. It's a big player. Meta, on the other hand, which is Facebook, and Instagram, up by around 2% on the day.
Why is that?
Again, because they're likely to be a consumer of the chips and not necessarily a producer of chips or of the artificial intelligence. Whereas Oracle is a producer of the chips and is a producer of the artificial intelligence. And if it's all of a sudden got a competitor that can do so much more cheaply, then quite clearly the market goes that way.
This is really interesting, isn't it, Ross? Because as you know, Donald Trump making that announcement with these big tech companies last week, talking about spending almost $1 trillion to build these data centres. So the whole point of what has happened here is, in the market and what DeepSeek is doing is that do you need these expensive data centres? Well, there are different schools of thought here that you do need
them. Roll them out more cheap? You need the chips. The chips are the key because they are the absolute IP of this thing.
And Nvidia, American company, but all the chips are made in China.
That's right. Well, or Taiwan, right?
Or Taiwan.
So Taiwan, China, which is the reason why Taiwan politically is so important in this whole conversation, because it's Taiwanese semiconductor company is one of the biggest in the world at making this stuff. But the interesting part about this is because Nvidia almost had a single hold on those types of chips, it really had almost the global, almost monopoly on those chips. That was the key for it. And so the fact of the matter is, as soon as all of a sudden you see that there's somebody else who might be able to do this cheaper, that becomes a big issue. But remember, there's two factors of this. Right now, what you've got is this enormous increase in data centers and the rollout of these chips to be able to hook them all up to make AI work faster. But then what happens is it's not where the real boom is. The real boom comes in the future. It's a bit like saying we've built the internet, but the real boom wasn't the internet itself, it was what came from the internet. Online retail, smarter things. So when they're talking about artificial intelligence, The first phase of the boom is rolling out these data centres and these chips. The real boom, however, is in the future. And the cheaper you can actually, and the faster you can get there, the faster you get better outcomes for medical science, better outcomes for transport, better outcomes for the way we work, better outcomes for the way we live. And this is really, if you like, the future benefit, which is the reason why Donald Trump has been convinced by Elon Musk and others, including Larry Ellison from Oracle, to commit so much effort to this artificial intelligence to try to maintain America's stronghold in this area.
As he should do, because as I say, this is the frontier, the next frontier, but it's already here. And I think it's hard to get for people to get their heads around, because they think of ChatGPT of, you know, being able to write a really articulate email for you that you don't have to spend too much time on. But it's more about, you know, can you cure cancer, being able to run so many scenarios at high speed, different sequences through.
To be able to run your personal DNA through it come up with a medical solution for you and a different one for me.
Yeah.
So that's where the key to this comes from. But it's space travel, it's mining, it's every bit of it that you imagine, it's mapping the world. So it's all of these things. It's also the presumptive idea as to how you want to live, how you want to shop. So all of these things come from it. So just like when the internet came out, everybody said, oh, it's a fad, nobody will ever use this. At the moment, people are saying, well, how's this going to work?
Yeah,
well, the reality is it will change the way in which we live. But what's happened overnight is absolutely showing just how much these valuations have been priced to perfection. Now, even here in Australia today, like, our stock market is not expected to fall terribly much, partly because we don't have giant AI or chip manufacturers here that really are in the same space, which is to our detriment. Because the real problem is if we don't develop this technology ourselves, guess what? We might have to import it, and that will destroy industry.
If we don't have the energy or capacity to even embrace it.
Like, let's be honest, our media industry has been overridden by Google and by Meta and by other international companies, right? We used to have homegrown media. Largely, we still have some, like Sky News, News Corporation, but the fact of the matter is a lot of it is now overseas media taking the advertising, taking away. And that's precisely, if you don't have some proprietorial rights over this technology, that's what happens to your economy.
Really interesting, Ross. Thanks so much for explaining it all to us today. Appreciate it. We'll speak to you soon.